Champ now. Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I went on a bum of month tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is? If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Storian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to Miss Cass. Without her, none of this would be possible. Salute to Mike Masick. Salute to everyone. And welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, the Box Storian. Today, Epic Fights of the 80s, Part 1. How's the family today? It's Tuesday, still early in this big week of boxing history we are embarking on. Today, we're going to talk about some fights from the 80s. This week is dedicated to boxing in the 1980s. Of course, yesterday we talked about some of those light heavyweights of the 80s, arguably the greatest decade of all, as far as competitiveness and talented fighters, the 80s. Today and tomorrow, we're just going to relive some of the fights from the 80s. Little brief talks about the fights. Today is going to be 1980 through 1984. Tomorrow will be 85 through 89. Epic Fights of the 80s, Part 1. Today on Cast Sports The Box Story. But, yeah, this is fight week for Keith Thurman and Sebastian Fundora this weekend. We've been waiting on that one. We don't have long to see what will happen. I got Fundora in it. Probably be a good dominant decision. I don't think he'll stop Keith. I don't think Keith ever been stopped. His only loss was a decision to Pacquiao. Pacquiao dropped him in the first round, and that was the difference. Yeah, but this weekend, Keith Thurman, Sebastian Fundora, the Towering Inferno versus One Time. Okay, but now let's get into our fight of the day to start things off for today. Okay? So now, without further ado, today's fight of the day. Today's fight of the day is Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury 2. December 21st, 2024. Usyk does it again. Usyk does it again. All right, let's get into it. Fight of the day. Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury was contested at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, between Ukrainian heavyweight Alexander Usyk and British boxer Tyson Fury. For Usyk's WBA, WBC, WBO, IBO, and the Ring heavyweight titles. The fight served as a sequel to their May 18, 2024 encounter, in which Usyk captured the undisputed heavyweight crown by split decision, 115-112, 114-113 for Usyk, and 114-113 for Fury, marking the first pro defeat for Fury and unifying all four major titles for the first time. First time undisputed champion since 2000. First four-belt undisputed. Usyk retained his titles in the rematch with a unanimous decision victory, 116-112 across all three judges, showcasing superior ring generalship, volume punching, and resilience against Fury's size advantage and counterpunching in a 12-round fight that drew global attention for stakes in redefining heavyweight supremacy. Just Do Boxing. What's up, Just Do? Embarking on our fight of the day, Usyk Fury from 2024. What's Just Do Boxing coming up at 4 p.m.? That's what I'm warming you up for. Salute, Just Do. Okay? Fight of the day right now. Now, this fight was promoted under the influence of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority. The event highlighted Usyk's technical mastery, rooted in his cruiserweight dominance and transition to heavyweight, over Fury's unorthodox style, while underscoring the financial and logistical scale of modern heavyweight fights, with purses exceeding $100 million combined, and live streaming on platforms like The Zone. No major controversies marred the scoring, though Fury's post-fight demeanor reflected frustration, reinforcing Usyk's emergence as the division's preeminent force amid debates on judging consistency in elite boxing. Okay, let's take a quick look at the first fight before we get into the fight of the day, which is the second fight. Let's take a look at the first fight. Donnie Williams. What's up, Donnie? C. Williams in the building. Salute, Donnie. How are you today? Fight of the day is Usyk versus Fury 2. We're going to take a look at Usyk Fury 1 real quick before we get into the second fight. Take a quick look at 1. Now, the inaugural pro boxing match between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury occurred on May 18th, 2024 at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Usyk, holding the WBA, IBF, and WBO heavyweight titles, challenged Fury for the WBC title that was held by Fury, with the fight contested under unified rules for a potential undisputed championship. He'd be the first undisputed champion at heavyweight in the 4-belt era. The fight drew significant attention as the first undisputed heavyweight title fight in the 4-belt era. Usyk secured a split decision victory with judges' scorecards reading 115-112, 114-113, and 114-113 for Fury. 115-112, 114-113 for Usyk, 114-113 for Fury, marking Usyk as the first undisputed heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis in 2000 and the first ever in the 4-belt era. Now, the early rounds saw Fury leverage his height and reach advantages, landing jabs and controlling distance to build a lead on some cards. Usyk adjusted by closing distance and applying pressure, highlighted by a 9th-round left hook that floored Fury for a knockdown. The fight's pivotal moment, scored 10-8 by most observers. Now, Fury mounted a strong comeback in rounds 10 through 12, outlanding Usyk in volume, but it proved insufficient to sway the majority scoring. Proved insufficient. Post-fight, Fury contested the outcome, asserting in his ringside interview that he had won at least 3 rounds and describing the decision as undeserved, despite acknowledging the knockdown. His promoter, Frank Warren, won at least 9 rounds. His promoter, Frank Warren, echoed claims of a potential scoring error, fueling immediate debate over the closeness of the contest and the impact of the 9th round. The contractual rematch clause embedded in the fight agreement was activated shortly thereafter amid these disputes. And now we go to the rematch. The rematch clause was activated. So let's go to the rematch. Now, this is the fight of the day, Usyk Fury 2. We just took a quick look at 1, which was won by Usyk. In the second fight, Usyk does it again. Okay? Usyk Fury 2. Round by round breakdown. Now, Fury controlled the distance early with his jab, landing several to Usyk's face while circling the ring to avoid close-range pressure. Usyk advanced methodically, throwing single shots to test range, but landing minimally as Fury's footwork kept him at bay. No significant power exchanges occurred, with Fury's height and reach advantage evident in maintaining separation. In round 2, Fury continued using his lead hand effectively, snapping jabs that reddened Usyk's features while incorporating occasional right hands over the top. Usyk increased his output with feints and body shots, landing a notable left hook to Fury's midsection late in the round, prompting Fury to clinch briefly. Fury's movement remained fluid, dictating the pace. In round 3, Usyk pressed forward more aggressively, cutting off the ring and landing combinations to Fury's body, which visibly slowed Fury's lateral movement compared to the opening rounds. Fury responded with volume jabbing, but absorbed cleaner counters from Usyk, including a straight left that snapped Fury's head back. Fatigue signs were absent, with both maintaining high guard positions. Round 4. Fury reasserted jab dominance, using it to create space and follow with hooks, landing a solid right hand that staggered Usyk momentarily against the ropes. Usyk recovered quickly, countering with uppercuts in the clinch, but struggling to close distance without eating jabs. Fury's tactical shift to more aggressive forward pressure differed from the first fight's retreat-heavy style. Mike Grimm in the building. Fight of the day, Mike. Usyk Fury 2. Usyk does it again. Okay, salute Mike Grimm. Welcome aboard. Epic fights of the 80's today. Okay, in round 5, Usyk's pressure intensified, landing a series of body shots that forced Fury to shell up defensively, echoing his mid-fight success in the initial fight. Fury's jabs decreased in accuracy as Usyk slipped inside, connecting with hooks to the head, though Fury clinched to reset. No knockdowns, but Fury showed early signs of labored breathing. In round 6, Fury increased output with combinations, targeting Usyk's body to counter the pressure, landing a flurry that backed Usyk to the ropes. Usyk responded with precise counters, including a left cross that blooded Fury's nose slightly. Exchanges grew closer, with Fury's volume contrasting Usyk's selective accuracy. Getting into the middle rounds now. In round 7, Usyk dominated with sustained body work, landing thudding hooks that hunched Fury forward, limiting his jab effectiveness. Fury attempted to rally with uppercuts, but missed as Usyk's footwork evaded. This round highlighted Usyk's tactical evolution from the first fight, focusing on attrition via midsection targeting. In round 8, Fury mounted a comeback using feints to set up right hands and regaining ring center with higher punch volume. Usyk continued body assaults, but absorbed headshots, leading to visible swelling around Fury's left eye from accumulated counters. Clinches increased as both showed minor fatigue and foot speed. Okay, we starting to head toward the championship rounds now. In round 9, Usyk's pressure peaked, landing combinations that rocked Fury against the ropes with body shots, eliciting grimaces. Fury fired back with hooks, but it reduced power, differing from his first fight reliance on hit and run. Usyk's cleaner connections contrasted Fury's looser form. In round 10, Fury pushed forward aggressively, landing a significant right uppercut that halted Usyk's advance briefly. Usyk countered with left hands to the body, maintaining pressure despite Fury's volume. Both fighters displayed heavier breathing, with no separations ruled invalid. Round 11, Usyk resumed control with inside fighting, targeting Fury's body and landing hooks to the head in close range. Fury's responses were sporadic, focusing on clinching to recover, showing the adaptation from the first fight's later round vulnerability. Swelling intensified on both men's faces. In the 12th and final round, Fury unleashed high-volume flurries to closed strongly, connecting with jabs and rights as Usyk covered up. Usyk countered selectively, landing a late body shot, but Fury's output dominated the visible exchanges amid mutual fatigue. The bell ended without any knockdowns in the second fight. Alexander Usyk defeated Tyson Fury by unanimous decision after 12 rounds, with all three judges scoring the fight 116-112 in Usyk's favor. The officiating judges were Geraldo Martinez from Puerto Rico, Pat Morley from the United States, and Ignacio Robles from Panama. This outcome allowed Usyk to retain his WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBO heavyweight titles, maintaining his status as a three-belt unified champion in the division. There's the winner, Alexander Usyk. I believe the next year, 2025, he became undisputed again when he beat Daniel Dubois in the rematch, reclaimed the IBF. And Usyk is the first and only fighter to be two-time undisputed in the same division. No one does. We got other two-time undisputed fighters, but only one in the same division. Alexander Usyk at heavyweight, two-time undisputed. All right. So today, epic fights of the 80s. We're just going to go over some fights today and briefly walk our way through them. We're going to do, this is part 1, 80 through 84 today, 85 through 89 tomorrow. Epic fights of the 80s today. It has everyone this Tuesday afternoon. Still early. This week is going to be dedicated to the 1980s. Okay. Yesterday we talked about those light heavyweights. Arguably the greatest decade of all for light heavyweights as far as talent and competitive fights. Yeah, the 1980s was it for the light heavyweights. Okay, let's get ready to start talking about these epic fights of the 1980s. It's Sugar Ray and Roberto Duran. They had almost the first fight of the 80s and almost the last one of the 80s. Those two did. Yep. Sugar Ray and Duran. Two great fights. I think we got both of them in here too. Okay. But yeah, Keith Thurman and Alexander, Keith Thurman and Sebastian Fundora this week. Not Alexander Usyk. One time in the Towering Inferno. I got the Towering Inferno by dominant unanimous decision or late stoppage. But probably dominant unanimous decision. Sebastian got very adept at using his advantages, fighting from range. I don't see how Keith will be able to get in there and get enough scoring and to outpoint him. I just can't see it. So yeah. But it's boxing, so we will see. It's fight week 4. And then next week is Deontay Wilder and is it Dillian White? No. Deontay Wilder fight one of the British fighters. Can't remember which one it was. Is it Dillian White? Okay, but let's get into these fights. Epic fights of the 1980s. Okay. Part 1, 1980 to 1984 today. 1984 to 1989 tomorrow. Okay. I gotta adjust my chair real quick. Just don't seem right, man. Too far over to the left. Yeah, there we go. That was a perfect adjustment right there. Yeah. Okay, bear with me for 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, beautiful. All right, let's get started. Epic fights of the 80s. We got Mike Rem Donnie Williams, Just Do Boxing, Mike Massey, Miss Cass. Was Just Do Boxing coming up at 4 p.m. That's what I'm warming you up for. I'm the co-main. Main event starts at 4. Balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Giving everybody their just due. Y'all know the deal with Just Do Boxing. Okay. All right, let's go. Epic fights of the 80s. Was that Sugar Ray and Duran? They fought early in the decade, then they fought again late in the decade. What's up, Technique? How are you today? Technique says, the 80s was long before my time, but I've seen a lot of the 80s fights. Yeah, we're going to talk about them today, Technique. You probably bring back some memories of these fights we're going to talk about. Salute, Technique. How are you today? Technique always dropping gems in the chat. Appreciate your Technique. All right, let's start. Okay. Now, the 1980s was a monumental decade in politics, pop music, and of course, in boxing. Now, the 80s stand out for the sheer volume of exciting battles, not to mention the high number of super fights, which became huge crossover attractions. This was the era of the legendary Four Kings, Hagler, Duran, Hearns, and Leonard, of Larry Holmes and Aaron Pryor the Hawk, a prime Iron Mike Tyson, of the indomitable Bobby Chacon, and of such champions as the explosive thin man Alexis Arguello, Salvador Sanchez, Azuma Nelson, Michael Spinks, Jeff Finnick, and JCC, Julio Cesar Chavez. Now, living up to the standards set in the 1970s, which was a golden decade for the heavyweight super fights, was no mean feat. But the ring wars of the 80s hold their own in comparison to the glory days of Ali, Frazier, Norton, and Big George Foreman. Yeah, they held their own with them there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, they did. They had a great two-fight series in the 80s. Alexis Arguello and Aaron Pryor, the explosive thin man and the Hawk. Now, this list was originally conceived as a compassionate gesture of support for lockdown-weary fight fans during the coronavirus pandemic a few years ago. But the simple truth is that no devotee of the sweet science needs an excuse to delve into boxing's back catalog and discover or rediscover the most memorable, dramatic, and action-packed clashes from that crazy decade of the 80s. Now, this is not a ranking, and the fights are listed here in random order. They run the gamut from violent slugfests to shocking knockouts, to tragic battles, to exhibitions of great skill and talent. Some were super fights. Some were contested in front of just a few thousand fans and barely get mentioned today, while others have only grown in stature in the years since they occurred. So let's get to it then. 1980, this is part 1, 1980 to 84 today. 1980. Of course, we start with Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, which was one of the first fights of the decade. And in 1989, it was one of the last fights of the decade. Yep. Now, Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard won. With just one loss between them in 99 total fights. Combined, 99 fights, just one loss between them, which was Duran's. He lost once in a decade, 54 fights. Leonard had less than 30. Duran versus Leonard was destined to be one of the decade's most iconic fights. A showdown between modern greats whose legends will only grow in the years that followed this fight. The brawl in Montreal was 15 rounds of ferocious yet highly skilled combat, with the tireless Panamanian putting on the performance of his career and handing Sugar Ray Leonard his first defeat as a pro. Yep. In 100 fights after that, 2 losses between them. Each had one. Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. Sean O'Grady versus Hilmer Kenty. The first world champion from Detroit's legendary Kronk Gym was being groomed for stardom by network television. But he had to get past the Bubblegum Kid, and that proved very difficult. A frenetic battle saw O'Grady score a knockdown and outwork Kenty in the later rounds to take a unanimous 15-round decision in the Bubblegum Kid, Sean O'Grady. Yep. I'm on the right there. That's what they call him, the Bubblegum Kid. The legendary Salvador Sanchez versus Danny Little Red Lopez won. Sanchez on the right. Most people tuning into the CBS Sports broadcast were expecting to see Danny Little Red Lopez notch just yet another dramatic knockout win on national television. Instead, they witnessed a generational talent announce himself on his coming out party as the gifted Shaba masterfully dominated Little Red, stopping him in round 13 of an entertaining one-sided fight. Entertaining but one-sided fight. Yeah, that was the coming out party of Salvador Sanchez. Yeah, he had an accident a few years later and died at age 23, but still in the Hall of Fame. Still considered one of the best featherweights of all time and arguably the best Mexican fighter of all time. If he had an entire career, none of that would even be arguable. He would be the best featherweight, the best Mexican fighter, all of that. The legendary Salvador Sanchez. Okay, this one. Big Mike Weaver versus Big John Tate. 2 bigs. A major upset and one of the most dramatic knockout wins in boxing history. Also, a damn good heavyweight fight. Going into that one, Weaver on the left. Tate on the left. Tate needed to get by Weaver, and he was going to get the Muhammad Ali sweepstakes, right? All he had to do was get by Weaver to get that Muhammad Ali fight, but Weaver knocked him out. And Weaver got it and went on to a great career. Tate was never heard of again. He fought some more, but never the same. Yep. Shigeyo Nakajima versus Sung Jun Kim. That's Nakajima right there. Japan's Nakajima set a torrid pace to take his career and rival's world title by unanimous decision in a 15-round firefight. It was a satisfyingly bloody brawl. Both men cut and bleeding, and the excitement didn't let up until the final bell went off. Yeah, that was a barn burner there. Japan versus South Korea. They had a pretty good little rivalry going on back in the day. They sure did. Okay, we got Eusebio Pedraza versus Rocky Lockridge. 1. Pedraza throwing the punch. This one was youth versus experience, not to mention Panavar versus America on live national television. The young Lockridge impressed everyone with his bravery and hustle, including Pedraza. But the veteran champion came on strong in the final rounds to eke out a close points victory. Yep, Pedraza got that one. Yeah, now this one we talked about yesterday when we were talking about the light heavyweights. But worth mentioning it again. Matthew Saad Muhammad versus Yaki Lopez 2. Saad Muhammad was just incredible. Arguably the most thrilling fight in light heavyweight history. Saad Muhammad and Lopez wrung every last ounce of energy out of themselves in this rematch. Despite suffering a barrage of some 30 unanswered haymakers in a jaw-dropping 8th round of the year. Muhammad regrouped to send Lopez crashing to the floor 4 times in round 14, and the referee finally stopped it. 9th round was round of the year, and the fight was fight of the year for 1980, Ring Magazine. Yep. Randall Tex Cobb versus Ernie Shavers. Now, you know this wasn't going the distance here. Now, this was on the undercard of Thomas Hearns versus Pepino Cuevas. Cobb did his best Matthew Saad Muhammad impersonation, eating tons of brutal shots, somehow surviving, and then coming back to win in a grueling big man brawl. Considering Shavers is arguably the hardest puncher in division history, this was no small feat, a great heavyweight slugfest. Yeah, Randall Tex Cobb had a beard on him, took all them shots from Shavers, and came back and won it. Possibly the hardest puncher in the history of boxing, Ernie Shavers, the Black Destroyer. That's what they called him. Mike Weaver versus Jerry Coetzee. Between bouts of clinching and mauling, Weaver versus Coetzee delivered plenty of fireworks, with both big men unloading megaton punches with bad intentions. After dominating the early rounds, Coetzee ran out of steam before being iced with a blistering counter right hand in round 13. If it had been 12, Coetzee would have had the decision. But yeah, Weaver got him out of there in round 13. And this was one of the tragic fights of the decade right here. Lupe Pintor versus Johnny Owen. That's Owen on the left, Pintor on the right. Yeah, Owen died after this one. Given his advantages in height and reach, many expected Welshman Owen to try and box the defending bantamweight champion, who clearly had the edge in raw power. But the Merthyr matchstick bravely took the fight to the Mexican, and the result was an exciting two-way battle until Owen began to tire and the stronger Pintor took over. The brave challenger went down for the count in round 12 and had to be carried from the ring on a stretcher. He never regained consciousness and died 6 weeks later. And then after the fight, like some months later, he was from Wales. They put up a statue of Owen in Wales. And guess who the family had come and unveiled the statue? Lupe Pintor. Yep, they sure did. Because they understood, it's boxing and it could be anybody. So they put up a statue of Owen, and his family asked Pintor, the man who was his opponent in the fight, he died. They asked Pintor to come unveil it. Yep. Moving. Schoolboy Bobby Chacon versus Rafael Bazooka Limon. 3. They had 4 fights, and each one got better and better and better. All 4 of them. It may now be overshadowed by their 4th battle, but Chacon versus Limon 3 was awesome in its own right. One of those hot-blooded Inglewood Forum brawls that lingers long in the memory of those who witnessed it. Both warriors were hurt in a torrid 4th round, but after 10 tight rounds, Chacon was given a split decision to avenge his 1975 defeat in their first meeting. They had 4 of them. 4 fights. Leo Randolph versus Ricardo Cardona. That's Leo Randolph there. He was one of those 1976 Olympians where they won all those gold medals. Yeah. Sugar Ray, the Spinks brothers, Howard Davis. Yeah. Big John Tate got the silver, I think. I think he had to fight Teofilo Stevenson. And Teofilo got one of his 3 gold medals. But yeah, Big John Tate was also on that team. Yeah, Leo Randolph was also on that team. An absolute war made only more exciting for the fact it was waged in front of Randolph's home state fans in Seattle, Washington, and on national television. Defending champion Cardona figured to have the edge with his greater experience, but it was the Colombian who found himself in deep water in the late rounds as gold medalist Randolph joined his 1976 Olympic brethren with his own world title win. Yeah, that was Randolph's first title, and he joined the rest of them. Sugar Ray, the Spinks brothers, with a title. Okay, Lupe Pintor again. Yeah, Lupe Pintor, that's him on the left. He's one of the hardest punching little men in boxing history. Lupe Pintor. Top 2 or 3. Lupe Pintor versus Albert Davila. 2. Broadcast live as a supporting act for the tape delay broadcast of Leonard vs. Duran 2. Pintor successfully defended his bantamweight title, but not before Davila gave him all he could handle over 15 spirited rounds. Okay, now we go to 1981. 1981. Sugar Ray Leonard start the decade out again. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Ayub Kalule. Leonard versus Kalule. We going from 1980 to 1984 today. Okay? 1981. Fight fans couldn't wait to see Sugar Ray take on fellow welterweight champion, Hitman Thomas Hearns. But that's exactly what they had to do, as Leonard opted to challenge Kalule for his 154-pound belt first. The most anticipated and easy W for boxing's newest and biggest star. But instead, they got an engrossing shootout, as Sugar Ray elected to stand his ground and trade with the experienced African before his big guns decided to fight in round 9. Yeah, Sugar Ray stood there just like he did against Duran and went toe-to-toe, but he won this one. Yeah, stopped him in the 9th round. Epic fights of the 1980s today. On Cat Sports the Box Story and bringing you all that boxing history. Okay, the next one, we in 1981 now. Cornelius Bowser Edwards versus Rafael Bazooka Limon. Edwards on the right. Bazooka Limon loses the title belt he had won just 3 months earlier with a TKO win over Alfonso Bethamy, as Bowser Edwards is the more effective fighter in a hellacious 15-round war, one of the all-time great Southpaw versus Southpaw showdowns. Southpaw versus Southpaw. That's a good subject for a show. The best Southpaw fights of all time. Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. Salute. Yeah, from Seattle, Washington, Bruce. And it's Tuesday again. Know what happens tonight on Bruce Gas, the quiz. Tonight at 7. Okay, salute, Bruce. We're looking at some epic fights from the 80s. We're in 1981 now. Today is just part 1. 1981. Now, and that was Bowser Edwards versus Bazooka Limon. They had like 2 or 3 fights, I think. Okay, the next one is William Caveman Lee versus John Lo Cicero. Caveman Lee's ferocious Detroit dust up with Los Cicero. So neither warrior give inch nor quarter, each trading in the pocket for the entire fight. Round 5 saw Los Cicero rise at 9 from a heavy knockdown, badly hurt Lee, right? He got up and hurt Lee, then he got wiped out with a short left hook to end the fight. Barn burner. Salvador Sanchez again. Salvador Sanchez versus Wilfredo Gomez. The battle of the little giants. Now, this fight is perhaps the standard bearer for Mexico versus Puerto Rico grudge matches in the modern era. Knockout machine Gomez planned to blast Sanchez in the orbit, but despite pressing continually, he couldn't match the versatile champion who picked him off en route to an electrifying 8th round TKO. Yeah, Mexico versus Puerto Rico. It's Gomez from Puerto Rico on the left, Sanchez from Mexico on the right, and Sanchez won it. This was a good one here. This was the coming out party of Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Here he lost the fight, but really impressed in this fight. Ray Boom Boom Mancini versus the explosive thin man Alexis Arguello. Alexis Arguello was a 13-year veteran, already a legend, 3-time world champion at that time. Boom Boom had like barely 20 fights and went all the way into the 14th round. So this was Boom Boom's coming out party, even though he lost it. Now jumping in with a 3-weight world champion and modern great is one thing. Doing so at the tender age of 20 with just 20 fights behind you is another. Boom Boom's improbable bid for glory on national television finally came to an end in round 14 after a remarkable and bloody encounter. It was a great fight. Yeah. That's when Boom Boom really, people stood up and noticed him after that fight. Yeah. He went 14 rounds with Arguello. Only 20 years old, Arguello was an established legend at that time. Been in the ring 13 years. And Boom Boom really had a great fight against him. Yeah, worth watching. That's one of my favorites there. And here's Leonard Hearns won. Leonard Hearns won. Now, much hype unification fight between welterweight supremos. Leonard versus Hearns won had everything. Momentum shifts, passages of slick boxing, power punches, and a dramatic comeback finale. By turning the tide and stopping his adversary in round 14, Sugar Ray, who at times had been outboxed and outfought by Hearns, cemented his greatness. And then that was in 1981, and everybody just knew the rematch, immediate rematch, or at least by the next year. This was 1981. Guess when the rematch happened? 8 years later in 1989. And this was at welterweight. The rematch was all the way up at like super middleweight. Nobody saw that. 8 years after this great fight before we got the rematch. Sugar Ray retired about 3 times in between, though. That's what really held it up. All those retirements. He had the detachment and all that kind of stuff during that period. So yeah. But yeah, it took 8 years for the rematch. Rafael Pedraza versus Gustavo Ballas. That's Pedraza right there. An under the radar war that deserved to be in the running for Fight of the Year for 1981. Pedraza and Ballas battled non-stop at a furious pace for 15 rounds in Panama City. The close decision went to Pedraza, but this was a glorious back and forth Donnybrook and a credit to both of the Proud Warriors. Yeah. No loser in that one. Pedraza got the win, but both of those Warriors went at it. A fan-friendly fight. Aaron Pryor versus Dewan Johnson. Pryor versus Dewan Johnson. Johnson was a Kronk gym fighter. Yep. Now, Pryor's Death or Glory title defense against unbeaten Kronk fighter Dewan Johnson was sensational. It started oddly, though, with Pryor dancing around the ring Ali style. Then Johnson dropped him with a flush right hand. Pryor popped up, did the Ali shuffle, and immediately went to war. After arguably losing the first 5 rounds, the Hawk proved his class and pounded Johnson into submission in the 7th round. Yeah, the Hawk came out dancing. Everybody was in shock because, the Hawk came straight out and just went to war. And then he got dropped and he jumped up and did the Ali shuffle and went to war. Okay. Cornelius Boza Edwards versus Bobby Chacon won. They had a classic series too. These two. The Schoolboys sought to regain the title he had lost to Alexis Arguello, but Boza Edwards was too good on this night. Chacon had his moments though, rocking Edwards in the 1st and 9th rounds, and generally being a nuisance until fatigue, a bad gash, and his opponent's relentless assaults prompted his corner to call it off after 13 rounds. Okay, we go to 1982 now. 1982. We're going to 1984 today. Going to 1984 today, yeah. 1982. Alexis Arguello versus Andy Ganigan. Challenger Ganigan, aka the Hawaiian Punch, could crack, and he proved it when he rocked the champion Alexis Arguello and decked him in round 1. But the explosive thin man stormed back to overwhelm his dangerous foe and stop Ganigan in the round 6. But Ganigan did drop the explosive thin man. Yup. Sure did. Rolando Navarrete versus Chung Il Choi. Choi on the left, Navarrete on the right. Now, Choi is South Korean, Navarrete was from the Philippines. Now, WBC Super Featherweight Champion Navarrete defended his title against Korea's Choi, and the outcome was another thriller in Manila. This fight was in the Philippines, right? A ceaseless war with multiple knockdowns before the Filipino finally triumphed in round 11. And both men lay on the canvas in exhaustion after the fight. Navarrete stopped Choi in the 11th round, and then Navarrete laid on the canvas too in exhaustion. After Choi was counted out. This was a good one here. Salvador Sanchez again. Salvador Sanchez versus Azuma Nelson. Sanchez versus Nelson in 1982 now. It's fitting that the final stand of Salvador Sanchez generously showcased his skill and bravery. This was his last fight before, that tragic accident. A month before his untimely death, age 23, the master boxer puncher turned back African wildcard Nelson in a thrilling brawl, surviving multiple heavy raids to stop the boxer, who would later be called the Professor, not to mention Africa's greatest fighter in round 14. Yeah, a 14-round war. That one was, yeah. The Animal. Is the Animal? Frank the Animal Fletcher. Frank Fletcher versus Clint Jackson. One in a series of electrifying slugfests involving Frank the Animal Fletcher on national television. The irrepressible Fletcher initiated an intense firefight from the opening bell, and Jackson was more than happy to oblige. Fight fans got 12 thrilling rounds of glorious back and forth slugging before Philadelphia's Fletcher got the decision, the 12-round decision. And here is Pryor and Arguello, the first fight, won. They had two of them, two great fights. Aaron Pryor versus Alexis Arguello won. A great fight and a great story. Aaron Pryor versus Alexis Arguello must undoubtedly be added to any 80s boxing time capsule. Seeking to be the first boxer to win titles in 4 weight divisions, the Nicaraguan's ringcraft and measured boxing were eventually outmatched by Pryor's energy, strength, and ruthlessness. Yeah, Arguello was trying to be the first man to win in 4 weight classes. Both times he fought Pryor. Wilfredo Gomez versus Lupe Pintor. Yeah, all these fights were in the same day. What's up, Clarence McLean? What happened to your wrench, Clarence? Let me correct that right quick before we continue. Yeah, okay, Clarence. Here we go. Clarence is now a moderator, but salute Clarence. Clarence got a fire podcast, comes on in the mornings around 8. Okay, yeah, we talking about some great fights from the 80s today, Clarence. Yeah, this is two parts. This is 80 to 84 today, and then 85 to 89 tomorrow. Right now, Wilfredo Gomez versus Lupe Pintor, 2 of the huge punches, 2 of the biggest punches in the lower weight classes, these 2. Now, not only did Pintor and Gomez extend the never-ending Mexico versus Puerto Rico turf war, they took it to new heights. A macho showdown between reigning world champions. This epic battle was replete with attritional exchanges before Gomez's thunderous power proved the ace card. I think Gomez, like his 31 or 32 first fights in his career were knockouts. No, it was over 30. Straight out the gate. Gomez on the right there, Puerto Rico. That was Puerto Rico versus Mexico too, because Pintor was Mexico. But 2 of the biggest punches in history in those lower weight classes. I think this was probably at bantamweight. Yeah. Yeah, this was probably at bantamweight. You're welcome, Claire. I thought you had one. But yeah. Yeah, you two do be tripping, Clarence. They sure do. They do all kinds of stuff. Take your likes and your subscribers, everything away from you. Yeah. Okay, next is Bazooka Limon versus Rolando Navarrete. Yeah. Bazooka Limon versus Rolando Navarrete. I don't think that's them, actually. But okay, yeah. This class of southpaw power punches was broadcast on free national television. Well, cable was around, but you had to be rich to have cable back then. But the fight put together a great fight, put it on free TV, make more boxing fans. Anyway, Limon and Rumble affair before Limon regained the title he'd lost to Cornelius Botha Edwards with a clean knockout in round 12. Yeah, that was a on the mat 10 count. Wasn't no TKO. On the mat for the 10 count in that one. Yeah. Bazooka Limon. Now Frank Fletcher versus Tony Braxton. The Animal. Frank Fletcher versus Tony Braxton. Yeah, that's Fletcher on the left there. They called him the Animal. some kind of way he always ended up in brawls. Like Gaddy used to be. Gaddy would make anybody brawl. I told you. Gaddy would have Devin in the middle of the ring brawling. Arturo Gaddy. And Frank Fletcher too. They just some kind of way, whoever they was fighting, they would always be standing toe-to-toe before it was all over, just brawling it out. Frank Fletcher versus Tony Braxton in this one. Yeah. So there's no such thing as an easy fight for Frank the Animal Fletcher, said promoter Russell Peltz. And truer words were never spoken. He was from Philly, right? And Fletcher outworked and outlasted Braxton to get a unanimous decision in a crowd-pleasing brawl, but easy. It definitely was not. Yeah, Frank the Animal Fletcher's fights were all fan-friendly. Okay, I don't care who he fought. It was going to be a brawl. Like Gaddy. Okay? Now this one, Larry Holmes versus Jerry. This was one of the most hyped fights of the 80s right here. Larry Holmes versus Jerry Cooney. This was one of the biggest showdowns in boxing history up to that point. Holmes versus Cooney generated a live gate of $7 million and a total haul of over $40 million. And this was in 1982, okay? $7 million gate, $40 million overall for the closed circuit and all that. The closed circuit was the pay-per-view of the day. Closed circuit, you had to go out of your home to like theaters and arenas on basketball arenas, stuff like that, and watch the fight on the big screen. You would pay, right? But, you know, you had to go out of your home to watch it. Be in cities all around the country, called the closed circuit. That was the pay-per-view of that era. In the 1982, $7 million in a total haul of over $40 million. Now, as for the fight, it was competitive and theatrical. Cooney gallantly surviving a knockdown in the second round and giving Holmes all he could handle before succumbing in the late stages. Yeah, Cooney gassed out. And Holmes got him in 13. Yeah, this fight here, next one, changed boxing. This changed boxing. Change. Okay? Ray Boom Boom Mancini versus Duke Koo Kim. This was the catalyst that took the title fights from 15 to 12 rounds. It didn't stop immediately, but this was the beginning of the end for the 15-round title fights right here. Yeah, this was the beginning of the end of it. Okay, watching this pivotal slugfest again, a match which had a profound impact on the sport of boxing, provokes uncomfortable emotions. But Ray Mancini's fatal rumble with South Korean challenger Duke Koo Kim was unforgettable. An incandescent war between lightweights on live national television, it ended tragically in round 14 when Kim collapsed and had to be carried from the ring on a stretcher, and he never regained consciousness. Yep. And they made a movie about that, like in the teens, 14, something like that. Mancini went to South Korea and met Kim's family, his wife and his son, and they forgave him, you know. He's like, that could have been you getting carried out of there on that stretcher. So, you know, they understood his boxing. But yeah, very good movie. I forgot the name of it. The Something Child, something like that. But yeah, by Ray Mancini, very good movie. He met, this guy died as a result of their fight, and later in his life, after his career, he went and met the guy's wife and his son. Yeah. And yeah, that was the fight that changed boxing from 15 rounds to 12. Took a few years before the 15 rounders stopped, but they also had 12 rounders back then too. But then that was it. The 15 round, by the end of the 80s, there was no more 15 rounders. Appreciate you too, Clarence. 1,000,000%. Yeah. I know everybody in here probably already subscribed to Clarence. But if you're not, yeah, get over there and subscribe to Clarence McLean. Okay. And Cameron Terrell in the building. Salute, Cameron. How are you today? Good to see you. We're talking about some epic fights of the 80s. We're going to do it in two parts. Okay, we're going to go through 84 today and then pick up at 85 through 89 tomorrow. I probably could have went further because I'm like coming to the end almost now. It's just 10 after 3. We still got 50 minutes. But I always got a backup plan. Okay, yeah, but that fight right there changed boxing. Boom Boom Mancini and Duke Koo Kim. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. I think we're still in 1982, right? Yeah. So this was Bobby Chacon and Rafael Bazooka Limon 4. They fought 4 times, and each fight got better and better and better in the series. Yeah. This was the 4th one between them. Bobby Chacon, I know y'all heard of Skywalker, Boxio. That's his uncle, biological uncle. That's his mother's brother on the left there. Yeah, Bobby Chacon. World champion boxer. They stripped him. Guess why they stripped him? Because they wanted him to fight. Bobby Chacon was the champion. They wanted him to go to Puerto Rico and fight Hector Camacho, who was a Puerto Rican. And Bobby Chacon said, no, have him come here. I'm the champion. He was from California. And they stripped him. Ain't that crazy? I'm the champion, and you're going to strip me for not going to another man's country to fight him. And it probably was the WBC, because Mauricio's father was in control then, and, you know, the apple didn't fall far from the tree as far as Mauricio and his father goes. But yeah, that was crazy. How they stripped him for that. I mean, Camacho should have came here to fight him. Chacon was the champion, right? But Bobby Chacon versus Rafael Bazooka Limon, 4. They had 4 great fights. Each one got better and better and better and better. Now, this was the 4th meeting between sluggers Bobby Chacon and Rafael Limon. It was a real-life Rocky fight. No surprise given their shared history in the first 3 fights. But this one eclipsed all 3 that had come before it. After recovering from knockdowns in the 3rd and 10th rounds, Chacon heavily dropped his rival in the final round to a close unanimous decision. Some reckon it was the greatest fight of all time. Some people said it was better than the Thriller in Manila. Wow, that's doing something there, but it was a great fight. It's worth watching if you love fan-friendly slugfest. Yes, Chacon, Limon, all 4 of their fights, really. Now, 1983, we're getting ready to begin 1983. Milton McCrory versus Colin Jones, 1. McCrory was one of those Kronk gym fighters. He had a brother too. Steve was on that 1984 team and one of those gold medals. Steve McCrory, his younger brother, I believe. But Sugar Ray Leonard had retired. And so the WBC had Welshman, Colin Jones, and Detroit's Milton McCrory battle for the vacant title. The result was a highly competitive fight, with McCrory taking the early rounds, Jones winning the late ones, and the judges tabulating it a draw. So they had to have an immediate rematch because this was to replace Sugar Ray as the WBC champion. And then in the draw, they had an immediate rematch. Now the rematch came 5 months later, and it saw McCrory score an opening round knockdown and eke out a split decision win. And that opening round knockdown was the difference. Yep. So McCrory ended up with that WBC belt. And then Sugar Ray came back later. I believe he got it back. Sugar Ray retired about 5 times. Lenny LaPaglia versus John Collins. I don't know which is which. Bruce Gass probably knows. I think that's LaPaglia on the left, though. He was Italian. Okay. Now, a throwback crosstown rivalry fight between undefeated Chicago prospects. As in days of yore, the ethnic factions turned up in big numbers to back their man, with the Irish cheering for Collins and the Italians rooting for LaPaglia. The result was a hair-raising battle in front of a sellout crowd as Collins got the decision. The Irishman won. Collins. Irishman versus the Italian. That was a real throwback there. And it was a battle, too. And Collins got the decision. John Collins. Got to have this one. When you talking about fights in the 80s, it would be a crime not to have this great fight. Marvelous Marvin Hagler versus the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. And everybody thought this was just going to be an absolute war. This ended up being like a scientific boxing match between Hagler and Duran. Look at him, yeah. Duran shocked Hagler. Duran came out boxing. Hagler was all primed up for a war, right? Now, few expected the middleweight incarnation of Duran to pose Hagler many problems, even if he looked great in his preceding fights with Davey Moore and Pepino Cuevas. Then, the Hands of Stone turned in a vintage showing, utilizing his smarts and counterpunching to great effect before the bigger man found his groove and pulled the way down the stretch. Yeah, they said after 13 rounds, Duran was winning and Hagler needed 14 and 15, and he got him. Yeah, but that was a great fight. See, Duran is very underrated as far as his skills, counterpunching, footwork, all of that, because he always was such an aggressive, brawling fighter that people overlooked his defense and the other skills he had, but Duran was a very skillful fighter, man. Great counterpuncher, great footwork, ring generalship, all that. But people used to Duran just coming out there and coming at you. But in that Hagler fight, yeah, he fought a great fight. Nobody expected that. Great tactical battle between Roberto Duran and Marvin Hagler. Imagine that. You just knew it was going to be a war. But it wasn't. So that's your favorite one, Clarence? Hagler and Duran? Okay. So we're in 1983 now. And this was a great one here. Some say Tim Witherspoon, Terrible Tim, won this fight. Larry Holmes, the Eastern Assassin Larry Holmes versus Terrible Tim Witherspoon. Some say Tim won this one. Yeah. Now, few sporting spectacles are as big as an open-air heavyweight title fight. Larry Holmes eked out a points win over talented challenger, Terrible Tim Witherspoon, who almost managed to pull off a famous, enormous upset, right? Now, though Holmes was busier, Terrible Tim hurt the champion early and late. And Terrible Tim felt he was robbed by the verdict. So did a lot of other people. Yeah. Yeah, that was really a classic there, Clarence. Yeah. And yeah, Holmes eked it out. But some people say Terrible Tim won that fight. It's worth watching. It was a great fight. Then this was another one. Pryor Arguello 2. Both of those were classics. Pryor Arguello 2. Remember the black bottle in the first one. But in his defense, Pryor got Emmanuel Stewart in the second one and won even more dominantly without the black bottle. So, yeah, I'm glad they had that second fight, because if they would have never had that black bottle controversy would never have went away. That had been the only fight where Pryor's trainer, Panama Lewis, said, not that bottle, the one I made up. And they heard him on the cameras the cameras picked that up. He told the other corner man, not that one, the one I made up. The special bottle. Like, But that was in one. Aaron Pryor versus Alexis Arguello 2. And he had Emmanuel Stewart then, Pryor did. The bit between his teeth, Arguello fought fire with fire in this spectacular rematch, unloading heavy straight right hands and body shots in a bid to deter the irrepressible and aggressive Pryor and avenge his earlier defeat from the year before. Now, while Arguello staggered the Hawk more than once, the man from Cincinnati's power and pace yielded 3 knockdowns and a career-defining 10th round knockout win. I think the first one was like the 13th or 14th. Yeah, this one was 10th. Okay, we have Rocky Lockridge versus Cornelius Boza Edwards. That's Rocky Lockridge there. Couldn't find both of them. Now, coming off his fight of the year with Bobby Chacon a few months earlier, Bother Edwards started brightly here, backing Bowling Lockridge over with a right hook in round one. But the smaller, busier man roared back and led to most of the telling blows in a close but clear decision victory. So your Lockridge got the win. Edwards had just been in the one we talked about a little while ago with Fight of the Year with the schoolboy, Bobby Chacon. Yep. And he lost this one, though, to Bother Edwards lost to Rocky Lockridge. This is Frank Cedeno versus Charlie McGree. Here. Now, in his first title defense, Britain's McGree was expected to give his hometown fans in Wembley Arena plenty to cheer about. But in a violent brawl, he tasted the canvas 3 times before the fight was halted in the 6th round. Frank Cedeno got the win. That's Frank there. Yep. Went over there to Wembley Stadium and beat the British fighter. He stopped him because he knew they loved their home cooking over there. Frank knew, I can't let this go the distance. And here's the schoolboy and Bother Edwards too. Bobby Chacon, Bother Edwards too. Yep, I think they had 2 fights, I believe. This is the last one, okay? I thought we went to 80 to 83 today. Be 84 to 89 tomorrow. 80, 81, that's only 4 years. 84, 85, 4, 85, 86, 86. That's 6 years. Oh, well. Did it 3, 6. Okay. Then anyway, final one for today is Bobby Chacon versus Cornelius Bother Edwards 2. Bobby Chacon scored a 2nd consecutive Fight of the Year victory with this rip-roaring revenge win over Cornelius Bother Edwards in Vegas. Because remember, Bother Edwards won the first one. Both of them were fights of the year. A 12-round dogfight containing multiple knockdowns, bad cuts, and a stirring finale. It cemented Chacon's status as the ultimate never-say-die warrior. Yeah, the schoolboy, Bobby Chacon. Yeah, Chacon got that one. Okay, so we're going to look at some some of the best defensive fighters. Okay, to finish things off today because, we're going to do the second half tomorrow. I couldn't have got the whole thing in, but I could have got 80. Well, let's get 84 in today. That's really half the decade, right? 80 to 84. 85 to 89 is the second half of it. So let's get 84 in. Yeah. 80 to 84, like I said. Yeah, and then it'll be 85 to. No. Let's do the defensive fighters. Leave it like it is. Okay. Yeah, these are going to be some of the greatest defensive fighters of all time. To finish today off. Oh, I erased some of my pictures for this. Man. But I appreciate everybody for coming by today. And subscribe to all these great channels in here. Clarence and Bruce Gass. The quiz is tonight. Just Do Boxing. Just Do coming up at 4 p.m. With that balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Giving everybody their Just Do. Perfect name. Just Do Boxing. Yeah. Okay, we're going to look at some defensive fighters now to finish filling backup plan. Because tomorrow is going to be 84 through 89 for the back part of the decade. Because we couldn't possibly get them all in one day. Okay. But let's talk about some great defensive fighters now. Okay. Floyd Mayweather Jr. and the 25 best defensive boxers in history. Okay. Let's jump right into it. Now, I messed up some of my pictures. I don't know what happened. Okay, Sam Langford, the Boston Bone Crusher. Now, ESPN called, excuse me for a minute. Okay, ESPN called Sam Langford the greatest fighter nobody knows. And he's probably the greatest fighter never to win a title, too. Primarily because he never secured a world title. Now, speculators say this is due to the extremely popular Jack Johnson's refusal to fight Langford. And many thought the 5'6", 185-pound Langford could beat the superior Johnson. That's why Johnson wouldn't fight him. Roberto Duran. I was just talking about how underrated he is, right? Duran. And he's one of the best defensive fighters of all time, too, as far as I'm concerned. Now, Duran gained a reputation as a versatile brawler, more commonly known as a boxer puncher. He could fight skillfully when he needed to, though, and exchange aggressively at the drop of a hat. Wasn't just all about that brawling, but that's what most people knew him as. That's why he was so underrated. James Toney, lights out. Although his pro record in MMA does not suggest it, Toney is known for slipping and rolling with punches to avoid absorbing the full impact. Arguably, one of the slickest moves in boxing, fading or swaying a punch gives a fighter great opportunities to counter. Unfortunately, not every fighter has the timing to pull off such a defensive move. Toney is one of the best at it, okay? JT is one of the best at it. Larry Holmes. Talking about some great defensive fighters. Larry Holmes. I don't know what happened to my pictures. Now, the jab is an absolute must for any serious heavyweight. Holmes had a tremendous jab and handed Ali, Norton, and Jerry Cooney losses, primarily because of that jab. Okay. Stanley Ketchel. Yeah, I had erased some of my pictures, but yeah, that is Stanley Ketchel. That's against Jack Johnson. He dropped Jack Johnson. That's Stanley on the right. Great defensive fighter. The Michigan Assassin, that's what they called him. He was born to Polish immigrants in 1886. Ketchel would remind some of us as a Manny Pacquiao of his day. Ketchel was a middleweight who often fought heavyweights. His boxer puncher style allowed him to win against fighters who outweighed him by 30 pounds or more. Stanley Ketchel, the Michigan Assassin. Stay back. Jack Dempsey. That's Jack on the right. Jack on the left. Jack Dempsey was a great defensive fighter, but also a great offensive fighter too. Dempsey is a rare once-in-a-lifetime type fighter. His offense was his defense. He became one of the most popular boxers of his era because of his aggressive style, which pleased his fans. He fought back in the 20s. Jack Dempsey. He was the first champion recognized by a sanctioning body when the New York State Athletic Commission came in as a sanctioning body. Before then, they didn't have sanctioning bodies. Okay? They had promoters. They got out there and promoted the fights and everything, but the New York State Athletic Commission and the NBA, the National Boxing Association, came in the 20s. The National Boxing Association changed to the WBA in the 60s because boxing was becoming so international by that time. Okay, but we're looking at some great defensive fighters to finish off today. Marco Antonio Barrera. There's him and Eric Morales. No, that's Prince Nassim Hamed, Marco. Yeah, Marco beat the brakes off Hamed. Hamed only fought one more time after that. Yeah, never was the same after that beating. But Marco was a great defensive fighter. Barrera is another seemingly misplaced boxer on a best defense list, largely because he is legendary for delivering some of the biggest brawls in boxing history as an offensive fighter. But Barrera put on a boxing clinic against the very dangerous fighter, Nassim Hamed. Some people claim that Barrera had a rare ability to change his style as he got older, a trait that made him great. Marco Antonio Barrera. That's him and Hamed right there. About some great defensive fighters. The Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. Brown Bomber. Joe Louis Barrow. And his name was Joe Barrow, but he went by Joe Louis's middle name because to fool his mother. He didn't want his mother to know he was boxing. But how that's gonna fool your mother? You just gonna drop your last name and go by your middle name and think your mother don't know that's you. Come on, Joe. But that's why he went by Joe Louis originally. Name was Joe Louis Barrow, and he dropped the Barrow because his mother didn't want him to box. So like his mother didn't know that was him. But he's on the greats defenders list. Joe Louis holds the world record at 25 for the most consecutive title defenses at heavyweight. A clean living, honest fighter, Joe Louis was rejuvenating for boxing, which had earned a bad reputation for fixed fights and gambling. Yeah. And Joe didn't play none of that. And they took pains to make sure Joe Louis wouldn't be another Jack Johnson, because Joe Louis was the first black man to fight for a heavyweight title since 1915 when Jack Johnson lost it. And because Jack Johnson was just, he taunted the people and everything, man. And, they didn't want a black heavyweight champion, and Jack would just taunt him. He'd be talking to the man he's fighting, talking to the audience, telling the audience, you get in here, then your boy can't get it done. You jump in the ring. And so it would hit, like 22 years went by, and then Joe Louis' handlers took pains to make sure he wasn't like them. And Joe wasn't that type of guy, no way, though, But next is Winky Wright on the defensive list. That's Winky on the right. It looked like B-Hop. Did Winky fight B-Hop? Wow. Put my glasses on. It looked like B-Hop to me. I don't know. But that's Winky for sure. Great defensive fighter. Winky had such a long reach. He could put up the high guard and cover his head and body. You know how you might hit a fighter, get in the high guard, you hit him in the body to bring his arms down, or if he hold his hands low. You hit him in the head, try to bring him up and go to the body. Winky had them both covered at the same time, head and body. Yep. He had a serious reach. Ronald Winky Wright. And a great nickname. You got a great nickname when people don't know what your real first name is. I didn't know his name was Ronald till after his career was over. So that's a great nickname. When people don't know your real first name. Yep. But Ronald Winky Wright was freakishly good, with an arm span longer than his height. Right? Winky was built for defense. His peekaboo boxing guard allowed him to work behind a seemingly impenetrable armor, so he had the head and body both covered. High guard, his elbows went all the way down to his waist. His arm span was longer than his height. Now, when Winky puts up his guard, his elbows extend all the way to his waistband while still covering his head. Right? Amazing. Impenetrable. Okay. Rocky Marciano. Another one, kind of like Duran. He was such a brawler and great offensive that his defense was underrated. Yeah. Underrated defense. Because he was such a great offensive fighter. Yep, Rocky Marciano, The Rock. Only heavyweight to retire undefeated. But I think Usyk will probably be the second one. Yeah, heavyweight champion to retire undefeated. Usyk will probably be the second one. Usyk better not get in there with Carvalho, though. That old might go. Usyk ain't doing that, though. He's not fighting Carvalho. I don't blame him. Why? He don't have nothing else to prove. If I was Usyk, I wouldn't fight Carvalho neither. I'm not saying Carvalho will beat him, but I wouldn't even take that chance if I was Usyk. But Rocky Marciano, the only heavyweight to retire undefeated at 49-0 with 43 knockouts. Enough said. the great Benny Leonard. He fought in the 20s. If Roberto Duran isn't the greatest lightweight ever, then it's Benny Leonard. And they were trained by the same man. One heyday was in the 20s, one heyday was in the 70s. 50 years apart, they were fought by the same man. Trained by the same man, Ray Arcel, incredible. And Ray had a champion in every decade from the 20s to the 80s, except for the 60s. And he got out of boxing during the 60s because the mob, he ran afoul of the mob. You know, they was trying to get some of the fighters Ray was managing and stuff like that. And Ray wouldn't play ball with him, with his fighters. So he was outside a hotel in Boston and somebody came up behind him and hit him in the head with a steel pipe and almost killed him. That was in the 50s. So Ray Arcel didn't train again until the 70s. He came back when Roberto Duran's people asked him to train Roberto. And Ray took one look at Roberto and said, hell yeah, I'll take that job assignment. But yeah, he trained Benny Leonard and Roberto Duran 50 years apart. Two of the greatest lightweights of all time. Now, this is one of the greatest nicknames too, the Ghetto Wizard, Benny Leonard. Leonard learned to fight on the streets of a Jewish ghetto. When he went pro, he quickly gained notoriety as a high-skilled boxer with superior defensive ability. The Ghetto Wizard, yeah, that is one of the great nicknames, along with the explosive thin man, Alexis Arguello. And this one, another great nickname, Homicide Hank, Henry Armstrong. Another great, his offense was his defense. Because you see Aaron Pryor fight, Henry Armstrong was Aaron Pryor on steroids. Okay, so his offense was his defense. And he could do that, and he fought in the 50s. Him and Aaron Pryor fought in the 15-round era, and they both could fight like that nonstop for 15 rounds. Henry Armstrong. Now, ESPN ranked Armstrong number 3 in the 50 greatest fighters of all time. Behind Ali and Leonard. I got him 4. Sugar Ray and Ali, I got him 4. I got Sugar Ray 1, Robinson 1, Muhammad Ali 2, Willie Pep 3, Henry Armstrong 4. Okay. But ESPN got him 3. Armstrong did something only Manny Pacquiao was able to supersede. Winning championships. Well, scratch that. In the early 1900s, there were fewer weight divisions. And if Armstrong would have fought today, it would be 7 championships in 7 different weight classes. Because he had 3, and it was only 8. He was champion in 3 of them. And he missed 4 because he was robbed. They called it a draw at middleweight. He would have had lightweight, welterweight, featherweight, and middleweight. When they only had 8, he was almost champion in 4. Man, he was champion in 3 of them. And speaking of Manny Pacquiao, he's next on the defense list. Here's Manny. The Filipino icon, Manny Pacquiao. Now, while some folks will contest Manny is more of an offensive fighter, his defense is largely underrated. Okay? He dominated larger fighters, and that was directly attributed to his hard punching and ability to reduce the amount of punishment that he took. He rarely held, and Manny depended on his footwork and sidestepping motion to avoid taking heavy punishment from larger opponents. Jack Johnson, talking about some great defensive fighters. The Galveston Giant, Jack Johnson. There he is. Hailing from Galveston, Texas, Johnson was a product of his era. Now, boxing was different in the late 1800s, a more patient approach. Johnson would wait to capitalize on mistakes. Often, Johnson was criticized as a coward because he was so cautious. But he won the championship, so. Roy Jones Jr., Captain Hook. There's Roy. Roy Jones Jr. Wow, somebody's saying, ouch. Okay. Now, the fastest fighter of his day, Jones once knocked out Glenn Kelly with both hands behind his back. Notably, the best defensive fighter at the time because of his speed, Roy Jones Jr. almost seemed superhuman to spectators. Yeah, Roy could just do everything in there. Kind of like Boots right now. But people say Boots haven't did nothing, but some fighters got to get in there with him and give him a chance to do something, right? If nobody won't fight you, how can you prove yourself? Joe Calzaghe. Talking about some great defensive fighters. Joe Calzaghe. The Pride of Wales. Joe Calzaghe retired undefeated at 46-0 at super middleweight. Now, some boxing analysts claim Calzaghe was faster and slicker than Roy Jones Jr. and clamored for that showdown between them. And when they finally met in the ring, Calzaghe put on a boxing clinic after being down in the first round. Yeah, that was old Roy, but Calzaghe still beat him and B-Hop. And don't forget, tomorrow we're going to do part 2 of the epic fights of the 80s. It just ended early today, so this was the fill-in, greatest defensive fighters. But we're going to finish that up tomorrow, 84 through 89, okay? But now some great defensive fighters. The legendary Gene Tunney took Jack Dempsey's title and then beat him in the rematch. Gene Tunney. Now, Tunney was known as an extremely skilled pugilist with superior boxing ability. He handed Jack Dempsey 2 defeats, one of which became notoriously known as the long count. Dempsey was the most popular boxer of that day. Even though he lost twice to Tunney, he was still more popular than Tunney. But Tunney did beat him twice. Bernard Hopkins. How about some defense? There's him and Roy right there. They fought twice. They had the first fight in 93 and the second one was 17 years later in 2010. That was worse than Sugar Ray and Hearns. They had their rematch 8 years later. B-Hop and Roy was 17 years later. They was both in the 20s for the first fight. B-Hop was 28, Roy was 24. By the rematch, B-Hop was 45 and Roy was 41. But B-Hop aged better. Roy won the first fight, B-Hop won the second. B-Hop was 45 and he won his last title 4 years after that at 49. Okay? 4 years after that. Now, love him or hate him, Bernard Hopkins is one of the most skilled boxers of his generation. Hopkins successfully defended his title 20 times, which is tied for a world record for consecutive defenses at middleweight, tied with Triple G. 20. Wilfred Benitez, Radar. Yeah, his opponents used to think that he could read minds. It almost seemed like Wilfred knew what you was going to do next. The way he countered and got out of the way and everything. They said Wilfred must be a mind reader. The Puerto Rican, New York-born sensation, Wilfred Benitez, is the epitome of the term boxer-puncher. Not only did Benitez have great defense, his aggressiveness was paramount. Great defensive and aggressive fighter. Juan Manuel Marquez, the counterpuncher made him so great defensively. You miss on Juan Manuel, he's going to make you pay. Okay? Juan Manuel Marquez. Talking about some great defensive fighters right now. The most elusive Mexican fighter of his era. Marquez was the king of fighting in a telephone booth, a term used in boxing to describe fighting close in the center of the ring while using side-stepping motions to turn your opponent. Now, Marquez was a master at counterpunching and is regarded as one of the best Mexican boxers of all time. Juan Manuel Marquez. Okay? Top five greatest defensive fighters of all time now. Sugar Ray Leonard at number 5. Sugar Ray Leonard. I don't know who that is, but I don't think it's Sugar Ray Leonard. Well, Sugar Ray Leonard is number 5, though. Okay. In the 1980s, Sugar Ray Leonard was named Boxer of the Decade and has since been considered one of the greatest boxers of all time. Sugar Ray's style was considered too sweet to beat, but he got his moniker Sugar from his wife, Juanita Wilkerson, long before he was a great fighter. Number 4, Muhammad Ali. There's him smoking Joe Frazier. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The eyes can't hit what the hands can't see. Ali was a great defensive fighter. The best of all time at the back pedal knockout. And he invented the rope-a-dope. He invented the name, but he did not invent the rope-a-dope. They was doing the rope. Nicolino Roach, Archie Moore was doing the rope-a-dope in the 40s. Nicolino Roach was doing it in the 50s before Ali came up, when Ali was still an amateur. He started calling it the rope-a-dope, but no. They're laying on the ropes, dodging punches and everything. Nah, Archie Moore, Nicolino Roach was doing that way before Ali. And I can't believe Nicolino Roach was not on this list. I would have added him. Number 3, Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray Robinson, Mr. Pound for Pound himself. Number 3, defensively. Sugar Ray Robinson was named the greatest boxer of the 20th century by the Associated Press and is argued to be the greatest boxer ever. Robinson had power in both hands, and his fluid delivery made him a masterful pugilist. Okay. Number 2, Pernell Whitaker. Did I have Willie Pep on this list? Okay, yeah. Willie Pep is here. Are you ready to say? Number 2, Pernell. I got a tie at number 2. The first number 2 is Sweepy. Nicknamed Sweepy, Pernell Whitaker was a very slippery southpaw. His defense and steady offense gained him world recognition when he was named Fighter of the Year by Ring Magazine at age 25. And he's tied at number 2 with Floyd Mayweather Jr. Okay, Floyd Mayweather Jr. tied at number 2 with Sweet Pea. Now, undoubtedly, the best defensive fighter of this era, modern era, Floyd counter-punching speed and accuracy are the reason he was undefeated at 50-0. And the greatest defensive fighter of all time, not even arguable, the Will-O-the-Wisp, Willie Pep, won a round without throwing a punch, won a round on defense and ring generalship. The Will-O-the-Wisp, Willie Pep, greatest defensive fighter of all time, bar none. For Cast Sports, that is. This is subjective, This is not, opinionated. But for me, it's Willie Pep. Okay. Okay, let's get Willie in. I was putting this nickname in there in case nobody don't know what I'm saying. The Will-O-the-Wisp, there it is. That's what they call him, the Will-O-the-Wisp. Willie Pep. That's him on the right, fighting Sandy Sadler. Sadler had a 4-fight series. Sadler won 3 out of 4, but that's very misleading. It wasn't one-sided like that at all. Arguably, the best defensive fighter ever. Pep's career spanned 26 years while tallying an unprecedented 241 fights with only 11 losses. That's less than 5% of his total fights. Okay, 11 losses out of 241. To put this in perspective, it was the same percentage if Floyd Mayweather had lost his last 9 fights. It would have been 5% of Floyd's 50, I think. Yeah. 5 going to 50 10 times. But anyway, yeah, Willie Pep, he started his career with like 60 straight wins, and then he lost one and won like 70 something more. And he had a draw, and he was like 134-1 with one draw. One loss in his first 135 fights. Best defensive fighter of all time. Did I say he won a round without throwing a punch? Willie Pep. Now don't forget, tomorrow we are going to finish up the epic fights of the 80s. This was just to the backup plan because we finished like 3:30. Okay. So we're going to go from 1984 through 1989. I think I got a little backwards. It was supposed to be 80 to 84, 5 years, and 85 to 89, the last 5. But I did 80 to 83, 4 years, and then 6 years tomorrow. But yeah, don't miss tomorrow. We're going to finish that up. Epic fights of the 80s. We're going to talk about the last ever 15-round title fight tomorrow. Yep, after that Boom Boom Mancini and Duk Koo Kim tragedy. Yeah, and the family always forgive the other fighter. Like Sugar Ray Robinson at 40s, he dreamt that he was going to kill a man in the ring. And he told his team the next day about it. And they was like, oh, Sugar Ray, that's just he dreamt he actually killed this guy. He tried to get out of the fight, but his team talked him into continuing, and the priest came in and talked to him. And guess what happened? The guy died in the fight. They tried to prosecute him for that. But, you know, the people was like, no. Even the guy's family was like, no, you can't prosecute that man for that. It's boxing. And the prosecutor was trying to ask him, the investigator asked him, when did you realize that you had him in trouble, you was hurting him? And Sugar Ray was like, that's what I'm trying to do in boxing. Trying to get him in trouble and hurt him, right? And then Max Baer, the guy died against him. And when the guy died, he was sitting there with the guy, holding hands with the guy's wife at his bedside, right? And his wife told him the same thing. Duk Koo Kim family told Boom Boom, that could be you laying in that bed dying. You know, you're a boxer too. So yeah, they know what their family member is in, and they know the risks, and they never blame. And they tried to prosecute Max Baer for that too. How can you prosecute a boxer? How can you prove intent that he was trying to kill somebody? You're trying to hurt him and knock him out. So, you know, that's crazy. To actually try to prosecute somebody, that's an accident. You're in there trying to knock somebody loose from their senses. So how can you say they purposely killed somebody? But a couple times they actually tried to prosecute boxers for that. I thought that was absolutely batshit crazy. You know, how can you prosecute a fighter when somebody died? I see if you bring a baseball bat or something, or like that guy Louis Resto, or Margarito loading the hand wraps up, and Resto actually went to prison for his part in that. Yeah, I can see in that situation, but just a regular fight, you know, fighting legally with no hand wraps loaded or nothing. How can you prosecute the fighter? Margarito didn't get prosecuted when he got caught. But Resto and his manager, Panama Lewis, went to prison, and rightfully so, they should have. Banned from boxing for life. I think Panama Lewis passed away in 2019. But Resto came out of prison, and a few years later, he tried to go to the New York State Athletic Commission and get his license back to train. And they say, read the paperwork we gave you. That says lifetime ban. It don't say nothing about getting no license back. You better go back and read that paper we gave you. It said lifetime ban. No, you're not getting no license back. You can never be involved in boxing again as a trainer or anything, right? He not only had that plaster of Paris in there, where you add water to it, it gets hard. So as your hands in the hand wraps, your hands in them gloves get moist, the plaster of Paris getting harder and harder as the fight go on. And not only did he have that in his hand wraps, he took padding out too. So he should have went to prison, right? Had plaster of Paris in his hand wraps and took padding out of his gloves, right? So yeah, deservedly went to prison and got a lifetime ban and going to try to get his license back. And they told him, no, the paper says lifetime, my boy. And then he's going to go to the guy's name was Billy Collins. He's going to go to his family, his wife and his daughter, when he got out and asked for forgiveness. They was like, no, let God forgive you. We can't. They told him, no, we can't forgive you. Because Billy Collins had a car accident they suspected was a suicide, like some months after that happened, you know. He was a promising young fighter coming up, undefeated and everything, and getting there with this guy with plaster of Paris in his hand wraps and padding out of his gloves, and the guy just beat the crap out of him. And he was never the same. He couldn't fight anymore because he messed his eyes up, right? And lost his career. And then he was in a fatal car accident, and it was suspected that it was ruled an accident, but his family always suspected it was a suicide, right? And here's this clown coming back, talking about getting his license back. They said, no, read the paper again. It says lifetime ban, right? Thomas Hill, what's up, Thomas Hill? So, and Vacay Bay in the building. What's up, Vacay Bay? Good to see you today. Vacay Bay, subscribe to Vacay Bay too, because she has a great channel too. Yup. Yeah, this man gonna come back and try to get his license back after basically killing the man, causing the man to commit suicide. Plaster of Paris and took padding out of his gloves. Come on, man. You don't get no license back for that. And I don't blame the man's wife and daughter for not forgiving. They said, let God forgive you. We not. I don't blame them. You caused that woman's husband and that child's father to commit suicide. Even if it was an accident, that wouldn't. He had started drinking because of that, because he lost his boxing career. Even if it was an accident, it wouldn't have happened if the clown hadn't did that to him, cheated him like that. He never drank before in his life till after that happened. You know, he couldn't box anymore, so you know he was depressed. Started drinking. So yeah, that was terrible, man. We're gonna get ready for Just Do Boxing now, but yeah, appreciate Vacay Bay stopped by today. Clarence, yeah, that's Vacay Bay's link right there. Everybody hit that and subscribe. Get her subscribers up. But I appreciate everybody that came by today. Okay, we had Thomas Hill, Vacay Bay, graced us with her presence today. Karen Terrell, Bruce Gass, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Clarence McLean was in the building. Technique was here. Mike Rim, Donnie Williams, Just Do Boxing, Mike Mazik, and of course Miss Cass was in here for a couple minutes anyway. But I appreciate everybody. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to pick up with the 84. We're going to finish the epic fights of the 80s tomorrow. And we're going to talk about the last 15-round fight in boxing history due to that tragedy, Duk Koo Kim and Boom Boom Mancini, when Duk Koo Kim died, okay? That's tomorrow. But I appreciate everybody for stopping through today. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Just Do Boxing is up next. BVO tonight at 8. Everybody have a great afternoon. Appreciate y'all 1,000,000%. Salute, Al Booger. How are you?